Alright, my YouTubers. I'm going to do a short video about primer crimps. Yes, these are all 223s and 556s mixed. And I was just watching Ted Nugent on Pierce Morgan on my girlfriend's Kindle Fire. No, I do not have a purple Kindle Fire. But some of these have primer crimps. Some of them do not. This camera's not going to zoom good enough to show you, but for example, these first two have primer crimps. And then 3, 4, 5, 6 does not. 7 does. They look different than I thought they were going to look when I first got into this. It's just you can see like a tiny little inner ring, and oftentimes it's not even centered properly. But you'll see a second little ring around the primer. And the ones that are not crimped, then the primer pocket is just nice and rounded. The lip, like where the primer goes down in there, that's just nice and rounded. These are more squared off, and you'll see a second little ring. And those primer crimps sure cause a lot of problems when you're trying to seat a new primer. Now they will often come out. This is a Lee Universal decapping die. Now they will often come out with no problems. The problem is when you try to seat a new primer in there. So I'm going to show you what I do. I actually got this tip from another YouTuber. I run to Lowe's, got one. It turned out to be right on the money with how well this works. And that is this right here. This is a countersink. It's like a 5/8 inch or a 3/4 inch countersink, and this son of a gun will stick it in your drill, and it will cut that crimp nice. And it's not deep enough to go in there and affect the flash hole or anything else in that primer pocket. It cuts just that little rim, and it'll make that rim rounded, just like the ones that do not have a primer crimp. Great tip. I don't know what this is made out of, but it's harder than brass. I've already done a whole lot, hundreds probably, with this thing, and you cannot even tell, because it rides on the same spot every time, and you cannot even tell that it's there's no dent or anything in there. But so it's going to last a long time. It's pretty cheap, but some of these, well, all of them actually, are going to need to be deprimed. So I'm not going to do them all, just do a few. This is that first one that had a primer crimp. So run it up in there. Don't have my little thing in there, so there's the primer. Okay, there's a crimp right there that needs to be cut. Just take your drill, put it on a higher setting, and just 2 or 3 seconds, and you'll see the little tiny little pieces of brass go flying. And now that crimp is gone. I mean, it looks nice too. It's that's it. It doesn't even leave any edges in there. But if you wanted to, you could take a primer pocket cleaning tool to clean out that pocket a little more. I've found that it's not necessary. Now here's another thing. You can tell the difference on one that does not need the primer crimp removed. This pocket tool will go in there easily. Actually, it doesn't even touch the outer edges. Well, I should say this. I guess it touches, but it goes in there without having to force it to. But if you take one that has the crimp, you go to stick this tool in there, it doesn't go in there all the way. It gets in there just a little bit, it stops, and you crank on it, and you can just tell that it's a tighter fit. But this thing works great. It's so much faster. There's different methods of doing this. I cannot remember the YouTuber's username on there, but great tip. I saw his video and I was like, I think I went out and got one the next day. Worked out great. Done a bunch of them that way now. You get that crimp out of there, you won't ever have a problem with that brass again. Primer's in, primer's out. That problem's over with. So anyhow, that's how I do my 223s and 556s that have primer crimps. Most all of your 556s are going to have a primer crimp, and even some of your 223s will have a primer crimp. But once you start fooling with them, you'll really get the hang of learning which ones have the crimp, which ones don't. But at first, it can be a little, you know, it's not the easiest thing to notice sometimes right off the bat. But anyhow, that's my short video on primer crimps. Thanks a lot.